Sandton. So when you look at this picture, what do you notice? What are things that stand out for you? Let me firstly explain that at the back there is Sandton, and here at the front is Alexandra, which is a township. So here we can see remnants of colonialism and definitely more recent remnants from the apartheid system that we had. And the result is spatial inequality. As you can see that the people living in Alexandra, they live in high density type of accommodation, and many of them live in as we call shacks and not proper houses. You can see at the back at Sandton's Point, which is our financial center of Johannesburg and of South Africa, you can see a lot of trees and greenery, whilst here in Alexandra, the picture does not look like this. So I have a bit of a spatial economics background, and from this background in spatial inequality is really a persistent problem in South Africa. And added to this, we also have the highest inequality, income inequality in the world, and this spatial inequality that has been embedded and is still very much persistent. So we ask ourselves the question, but how can we maybe merge our domains and kind of build a link between leadership and spatial economics to try and think about ecosystems that can be formed within these unequal spaces to promote development. So spatial inequality, in effect, has multiple dimensions. So it ranges from economic, social, environmental, institutional, and psychosocial. And for us in South Africa and in the world, history matters, and why we have this spatial patterns that we perceive. But we must also remember that we should not only look at the where dimension, we should also look at the temporal or when dimension, hence we say history is very important. So we found that when we kind of pulled our two domains together, spatial economics and leadership, we saw that there is a limited focus on individual agency from this perspective. And that we then saw as place leadership, which then influences the space and the spatial context that we have, both where and when. Thank you, Karen. Oh, sorry. So just for reflection, maybe for you to already engage in our content is to think about how might economic ecosystems be enhanced, bridge the divide between more equal places and more unequal places. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Marianne, and thanks, Juanee, for this invitation. It is a privilege and an honor to present here place leadership. So I am also at the business school and I lecture on contextual leadership. So place leadership fits very well with my research agenda as well. And I would like to share this definition with you. So Juanee, you also mentioned that you are busy with compiling a definition. So I have a couple of options here for you. I hope that can help for you. So the first one is who influences who, and how, for what purpose, and in what kind of context, and with what outcomes. So often when we teach leadership, we say leadership is about influence. But then there's something specific about this place leadership. So place leadership is described as a multi-agency. So that's quite important for your definition. Multi-agency, multi-level, and multifaceted according to various institutional and also cultural contexts. And in South Africa, that's also very relevant to us. Place leadership need to represent not only their own organizations, so leaders, they need to represent not only their own organizations, but also their places more broadly. And ideally, you know, it's distributed place leadership that we are particularly interested in. And that will then become a shared development effort that can rectify also the spatial inequality that we are focusing on here. So if you look at the traditional leadership definitions and specifically also management, then leadership is an individual capacity for command and control. And if we contrast that then with place leadership, which is much more about sharing, cooperation, collaboration, because of the challenge to deal with a variety of stakeholders. So I think that is also an important part of your definition, to include stakeholders. And because all stakeholders will have vested interest in places. So a distinction is explicitly made between leadership in a region and leadership of these settings. And Marianne and I would love to share with you a specific case study here this afternoon. I love case studies. And the one that we would like to share with you is about economic ecosystems. And you can see the biological ecosystem there in front of you. And this case is Londolozi, which is a wonderful, like a luxury game reserve, and in the Sabi Sands area, which is very close to Kruger Park, which you may know about. And I hope next time you can go on a safari at Londolozi. What Londolozi realized is that they have to stimulate rural economic development. So because they realized we have a stake in social upliftment of the surrounding area around these luxury lodges, because of their staff that are coming from these areas, and they needed partners to create sustainable jobs. So that's how we then realized that there's actually place leadership happening here. So the idea was to increase economic competitiveness of that rural area. And Londolozi then founded this NGO, which they called the Good Work Foundation, because there was not a lot of good work in this environment. And they realized for this good work to be found, they first need to invest in education. So it was absolutely amazing what they've done. They, invested in digital type of education for rural communities, and because of internet access, it was possible for them to do that. And their main partner here was, since 2012, it was T-Systems, and you may know T-Systems as one of the subsidiaries of Deutsche Telekom, and as part of their corporate social responsibility, they then had place leadership, and the CEO I interviewed, Gert Skumbi, he partnered with the Londolozi's owner, who is Dave Varty. They created digital educational facilities. Now, these digital educational facilities then feed it into this rural call center in that environment. And you can see there from the plans. And Marianne and I thought you will enjoy looking at the plans as city and urban planners here. So sustainable regional development were created here through creating a shared value concept. So business on the one hand benefited definitely. In that rural area, there's of course lower retail estate cost, and salaries are much lower than here in the city. So the benefit for the business was that, and then community upliftment through it. They created youth employment, and we are so grateful that there's more jobs for the youth in that area where there's a huge underemployment issue. And then the infrastructure, I think, is interesting to us because that is where the business ecosystem was actually helped through internet access that they created, and solar energy, and those alternative energies, renewable energies helped the small businesses in the environment. So as you can see, there were cross-sectoral collaboration that was made possible by the deliberate agentic actions of the place leaders that we interviewed here. And that shaped in the future of the places at the moment, and that we can now see over 8 years, to overcome the spatial mismatches that Marianne also showed you in South Africa as a big issue. So from that, we've realized that there's an importance of place. Why? Because all stakeholders have a stake in a local development. So they created then for them common goals. And we then are very happy to be able to share this with you, because we think there's a wonderful opportunity for you as space planners and with the design of places to actually look at the different stakeholders and to be the you are positioned so well actually to bring these stakeholders together. And I've also listed the couple of stakeholders there for you. And Ulrich will also speak more about sustainability. And we are also very passionate about the SDGs. And we can just see how you can also play a role towards the SDGs and the accomplishment of that. So the question then that we would like to pose to you is, what role would you say might spatial planners play in this whole ecosystem we're speaking about here? And we would like
Wonderful. Thank you, Caren.
Is it done? Are we not? Okay, so I need to end. She's gone. Marianne, should I end or what? You're muted. You're muted, Marianne.
Talk through this slide and then we probably
Right.
don't.
And then you can just close. So thank you. We wanted to just leave with you as a place leader. What do you need to look at? The head, the heart, and the hands. So it's the way of thinking. So contextual intelligence is crucial. Then your heart and also hands to map that stakeholder needs that we mentioned. So Marianne?
Yeah, thank you. And we kind of see spatial planners as helping us in this ecosystem to be bridges between places that are spatially mismatched and to create local economic development. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you too. It's insightful to see the different perspectives and actually everything that we've got in common. So before I speak too much, I know Anna has prepared for us the polling questions. Anna, so I assume you will share your screen? Yes? Okay, good.
I will share the polling with you so all of you can see the questions and you will also see immediately the answer all together. Do you see it on your screens?
Yes.
Then we're just waiting for engagement.
While everyone's reading, I see Ruth, welcome, but I see your question that you would please want the PowerPoints, and Marianne and Caren already indicated that they will make it available. So via the Secretariat, it will be sent out to everybody that attended.
You're going to get the PowerPoint. Oh, for the other one.
Okay, so interesting. The first question, do you consider economic ecosystems when engaging with planning projects and proposals? So I'm glad to see a lot of you say yes all the time. That's good news. I think Caren and Marianne will agree. The second question, do you think urban planners play an important role in terms of place leadership? Yes, for sure. And in some cases. So good, at least we realize our role as place leaders and what we can contribute. And then the third question, do you think urban planners have adequate skills and competencies to be place leaders? Okay, so there are things that could be better. And I see we've got a lot of lecturers and professors also signed in today. So this is maybe something for the academia to consider. How do we actually develop these skills? That is so crucial in our profession. Marianne and Caren, do you want to have a last word on the polling and the questioning? Is it interesting? Is it different than what you would have expected in your disciplines?
Marianne?
Yes, thanks, Yua. I think the ecosystem, I think that is an important part of your foundation as well. But what was very interesting is the soft skills that Caren spoke about, in that you have to use contextual intelligence and that you have to have a heart and a passion for building these ecosystems. So those softer skills and the leadership elements, I think it will be very valuable. Yeah.
Thank you. And I see Frank also commented, very good presentation. We are very glad to have you here. And I know you will stay a little bit longer when we get to the questioning and the open part. But for now, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Ulrich Graute for the second presentation. Ulrich is also one of our scientific committee members and co-curator for today. So I'm very thankful for Ulrich. So the floor is yours, Ulrich. Thank you.
So can you hear me? Yeah, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, now I will share. Okay, I want to welcome you from Berlin. Wait, it's not yet. Now it's okay. I have to go to the beginning. Yeah, I welcome and thank you very much for inviting me to speak here. I was introduced as speaking about sustainability, but of course I cannot talk about all aspects of sustainability, and so I will pick the development of time, so the factor of time, which is very important for sustainable development. And I would like to share with you how place leadership pattern changed in over time. And I want to, let's zoom in. Here you see on the first slides on the left, Western Europe, and in dark blue, Germany. In light blue, that's the state of Northern Westphalia with cities like Cologne and Düsseldorf, and with the Ruhr area. In the middle map, you see the Ruhr area. It has more than 5 million people as inhabitants. And as you see on the right side, it includes cities like Dortmund, Bochum, Essen. The city is mostly known for its industrial development. The entire region is known for its industrial area and its role also as weapon factory for Germany. But you won't believe it, the place leadership over the last 1,000 years was mostly with women. It was, let me switch the page. It was, before industrialization, it was a principality ruled by aristocratic women. They lived together in the covenant, not in a monastery, and they elected their superior, who had a seat in the Reichsrat of the German Empire, and they were protected by law of the Reich and survived 1,000 years under female leadership. And okay, at the beginning of the 1800s, that was over, and then a completely new leadership began. This time it was male, driven by the founder of the Krupp steel factory. You see here the map of the city of Essen, about 1900. Here the blue circle, that is the old inner city, the old town. And everything here in the red circle is one company. It's Krupp Steel in Essen. In the yellow circles, you see housing areas. So the factory was so big and the city was so small that they had to build housing. And some of the housing areas are bigger than the original city. So you see here very clear, place leadership is by a company. And as on the next slide, you see this is a painting which shows how proud they were on the big industrial area. In the circle, you see the little city, that's Essen. And this is all the factory. And I think I've never seen in the world a place which is so dominated by a single person who is neither the autocrat of the territory nor a democratically elected person. And that, imagine all the weapons they produced. Okay, but each powerful person has a heel of Achilles, so a vulnerable point. And the vulnerable point of this powerful entrepreneur is water. You won't believe it. Wherever you see here on the painting smoke sticks, you know there is also a lot of water needed. Water to wash the coal, water to cool engines, water to cool the steel. And but they couldn't pump the water out of the ground because under the ground there were coal mines. Coal mining and water has a very delicate relationship. So they needed the water from elsewhere, but the power was not strong enough to just order it. So they switched to collaborative efforts. And now the next slides, this shows basically the water catchment area of the Ruhr River. Here, this is the Ruhr River. And here in red, you see the city of Essen, which is comparatively small in this larger area. And we are coming now also in the rural area. So here, the gray, this is all highly populated. But this mountain area where the water comes from is rural. And the idea was to store the water in dams here uphill and to assure that there is a steady flow of water into the densely populated, industrialized cities. So, and they built this water association, Ruhrverband, with 60 municipalities and 413 private enterprises. And it was the beginning of regional planning in Germany. So nowhere it began not in an academic discussion, but in practice by individual cities not being able to manage resources. Okay, and this cooperation developed and developed. And over the 150 years, now companies like Krupp or ThyssenKrupp, they are less powerful. There are a lot of more other actors and they all want to be involved in the collaboration. And so this is the situation today. On the 13th of September this year, so last Sunday, there was the first time a popular vote for a Ruhr parliament. So a parliament for this metropolitan area, including all these municipalities. Imagine there is a European Parliament. There is a German federal parliament. Below that, there is the parliament of Northern Westphalia. There are the city councils of all these cities. And now there is also a Ruhr parliament. And the reason is, first is, there are more and more things which need collaborative and participatory solutions. And the principle of subsidiarity. So the solution should be taken as close as possible to the problem. And so not at the European level, not everything at the local level, at the national level. And so they established this, this parliament. And this is so new, so you are now at the cutting edge of development in the Ruhrgebiet. I briefly mentioned also the European Union. The European Union is also engaged in place leadership. You see here a proposal of the Council of Europe. That's a body which includes all regions, including Northern Westphalia. And they proposed for the new funding period, 7 years of funding, new priorities. We can't go through of them all. It includes a lot of aspects like sustainability, urban-rural continuum, EU resources, cohesion policy, innovation, etc. Partnership, multi-level governance. The important is the European level has influence on place leadership by its funds, for example. Yeah, if you live in a municipality, you have a public square which you can renovate, or you can you have a decision either to renovate a public square, renovate a kindergarten, or a school. And you have 100,000, which is not much. And then you see the EU budget, and they have thematic funds, budget lines, and they co-finance in what you do at the local level. So, but they don't co-finance everything. So if they have schools, IT equipment for schools as priority, and you use your 100,000 there, then they add another 100,000 or even 300,000 depending on your eligibility. So they have not only a say on placemaking, they are involved. now this is already my last slide. I tried to systemize it here a little bit. We have here the problems, and of course then policy solutions are produced. But according to the analysis of Sharp and Mainz, which they labeled as actor-centered institutionalism, there is a lot more which you have to look at. So you have, of course, the institutional setting in that territory. You have the policy environment that are general trends, and of course you need actors. But now here their actor-centered institutionalism goes into details, and they say there are not only actors, these actors have orientations. Within one political party, different persons have different focal areas, and they have different capabilities. So Mr. Trump is a president, Mrs. Merkel is a chancellor, but these persons have different capabilities and different orientations. Then there are different constellations. So you have in Essen, where Krupp governs, there used to be many poor people, but as long as they were not, didn't join unions, it was easy to govern them and not to involve them in collaboration, because they were not in a clear constellation. And then also important is the modes of interactions. It is more formal, more informal? And I think this is complementary to what Karen says. This gives also aspects which have to be considered when it comes to the definition of what is place leadership. Yeah, to sum it up, I think place leadership is work in progress. I have looked here at 1,000 years of history, and it is changing. It is at times more top-down, more collaborative. Certainly there is a trend towards more collaboration, but and now we are in a situation of pandemic. There is also leadership and law enforcement requested, so that it's a new situation. I think it will need also collaboration, but it may be shifting according to the specific needs. Yeah, thank you very much for your patience. And yeah, 3 questions.
Thank you very much. Wonderful presentation. I see Frank wrote you some very difficult questions there in the comment section, but before I ask you to give your thoughts on that, I think Anna will share with us 3 more poll questions. Ulrich, I think you can end your screen that is shared, and there Anna gave us the second round of questions. Okay, so first one, the first principle of the International Guidelines on Urban and Territorial Planning ask planning and place leadership to be an integrated and participatory decision-making process. Do you agree with that? See, everybody is thinking really hard at this stage. Okay, I see the answers coming in. Okay, so for the first question, it seems as if everybody thinks yes. Some people say all stakeholders do want to express their opinion, but that the decision making should be left to the elected leaders. So, but I see the majority say, yes, for sure, we need that participatory decision making process. Okay, I'll come back to the first one. The second one, majority by far says yes, for sure, that it is necessary. So that says in the Ruhr area, all policy levels are involved in local placemaking and leadership. And is that necessary? So again, we bringing it back to the placemaking and place leadership to say, do our policies talk to what's happening on ground level? And then the third one, by far the majority, how important is the awareness and there's different interactions and different actors in place leadership. And definitely majority by far, yes, for sure, it's very, very important. And especially the part of the leadership that we need to be leaders, local leaders in this placemaking process. Ulrich, do you have some comments on the answers? Is this what you expected?
Yeah, more or less. We can further discuss so how it's collaborative leadership can be also place leadership has to be discussed also in relation to effectiveness and efficiency. So it's when problems have to be solved, because it is according to the guidelines of urban and territorial planning, it's a decision-making process. So it is, one thing is to involve everybody, to have a participatory and integrated process, but also, and I'm glad about these answers, but of course in practice then there comes the challenge to make this also work, to come to decisions.
Yes, for sure, bringing the theory back to the practice. So basically now we've got an open discussion, so it's time for comments, or anybody feel free to give us your input. If there's some comments in regards to the definition that we are trying to create for place leadership from a planning perspective, you are welcome to share it. I see Frank, you've been chatting there in the chat box. So is there anybody else that wants to contribute or share some ideas, perhaps local experiences that you had with us?
I could answer to Frank if you want.
Yes, please, it's good. And then in the meantime, if anybody wants to ask something or just comment, you can just indicate your name in the chat section, on the chat box. Thank you, Ulrich, you can go ahead. Yeah,
Frank asked if the subsidiarity concept is not in contradiction with multi-level place leadership. No, it is not. Of course it is. It is all part of multi-level place leadership, but it is, the principle says that the main decision should be taken as close as possible to the problem. And that is in favor of local decision making rather than far away headquarter decisions. So I don't see that it is in contradiction. It is a specification, yes. And actor-based place planning as a new model, no, I think that is too much. It is just it is an analytical model, this actor-centered institutionalism. Place-based is, I think, place leadership is always actor-based, and so should be place planning.
Thank you. Frank, are you happy with that answer?
Unmute. Okay. Yes. Well, for the sake of debate, yes. It's subsidiarity is too often a bit reduced in its simplicity to it's always the lowest possible level that takes a decision, but we understand in most cases, even an urban project needs actually all the levels involved, the regional level, sometimes even the national level. So I think it should not be redundant or reductionist, right? And that's I think the beauty of multi-level collaboration is that for every planning project or process, you actually look at all the scales and you look to what kind of role they have to play. Yes. And so it's not like you decide in the beginning of the planning process, is this purely local or is this purely regional or national? No, it's almost always a combination. That for me is a bit a different approach than subsidiarity.
Yeah, can I answer? Yes. Nonetheless, I insisted on the subsidiarity because very often there is this multi-level engagement in the sense that the lower level can comment on plans coming from the higher level, but there is no involvement in decision making. So often this multi-level cooperation is only seemingly, while the decision-making power is concentrated at the highest level, especially in more autocratic countries or in areas where you have a dominant actor like industries. So yeah, Mr. Graute always would say that he involves everybody, but if it's not in his interest, he will make sure that he takes his decision. So.
Sorry, Ulrich, I had a technical issue on my side now, but I'm back in the room.
We just finished, it's okay.
Good, good. Did you see the next? There was also a question on cultural diversity and if that is necessarily a positive or a negative thing. And I thought, Karen,
yeah, perhaps there are technical.
I'm not sure if you recently different ways to handle that in terms of leadership and place leadership.
Yeah. Yes, so thank you, Juanee, and I'm glad that I can speak because I want to also answer Frank with his use of the word territory. So I think the cultural diversity is actually important, especially specifically in South African environment, where we want to be more inclusive. So I hear, Ulrich, that there's sometimes a power difference, and that from business side, that if they have a lot of power, then they may not be that inclusive. Whereas I think, especially with us, with our MBA, how we are training our MBA students is very much also including diversity and ensuring that they realize that there's a bigger picture and how they need to bring different parties together. And I think for me, that is the essence of place leadership, that it's different than the actor, but it's much more about the actors and the multi-level collaboration and distributive leadership. So it's not about the actor, but rather actors and including more actors. So Frank, in terms of the territory, I have an issue with the word territory. Because, you know, if I think of I love wine tasting and have studied wine production a bit, and they often talk about territory. Those of you that are French can help me with that pronunciation. That's where territory comes from. And that's actually talking about the spatial dimension or the physical dimension. Whereas I prefer context. Context has both. It has, on the one hand, yes, there's a physical and there's this spatial dimension, but there's also the temporal dimension. And especially with culture, I think it's important to have a look at the history of a place so that people can call a place their home, and that will bring in more the emotional dimension rather than only the physical.
Thank you, Karen. Frank, are you happy? I see. Yep. Karen, that's very well done. If you get Frank to say he's happy, if he agrees, so that's a job well done. I don't see anybody else that's indicated that they have something to stage. Okay, so for now, I would appreciate if everybody can quickly turn on your webcam if you are comfortable with that. then we can take the group photo. In the meantime, if you have something to contribute or another question, please feel free to do so. But in the meantime, let's quickly turn on that webcams if you do want to be on the group photo. Yes. Are you happy with that, Anna?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So while there's, I think, no further questions or comments, please remember you can send us through your comments or suggestions via email. Any input that you have, or some of you indicated that you still want to contribute to writing a piece on place leadership, so we'll follow that up within the next week. So please keep in contact and let us keep this conversation going. Frank, without further introduction again, so Kate is our new town hall curator, but I will give the privilege for Kate to introduce the concept and how we will go further with that. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Frank.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be able to introduce our new cyber or virtual member town hall. And to just quickly state, it's a place for our members to connect virtually, kind of like here in the Cyber Agora, and it will be a place to share ideas and knowledge and come together and hopefully collaborate on some great discussions and output on spatial planning topics. So I look forward to getting to know everyone and connecting there. Thank you, Juanee.
Well, thank you very much, Kate. Okay, so all this conversation further, so we won't cap you there within an hour time frame. But then, Frank, the last word is yours as Secretary General of ISOCARP. You can explain the conference and the Congress, everything that's coming up, and then close our third Cyber Agora event. From my side, just thank you very much for Anna, for always helping, Frank, Martin, the whole ISOCARP team for giving us this platform to engage and to at least see the friends across the globe and share ideas. We appreciate it. But over to you. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Juanee. You are such a wonderful curator of this Cyber Agora. Today again, I mean, it's hard for us, man, to compete with the female power behind this Cyber Agora, especially now that we will have a new curator for members town hall. Although I must say, Ulrich, well done too. So thank you for another exciting Cyber Agora event. Thank you, Caren and Marianne, for a lovely story from South Africa, a different story. And this is actually excellent. The Cyber Agora is not just a kind of a place for inward-looking planners. You know, it's a public space where we also have to interact with people who are not in the hardcore of the planning business, making plans, right? But as you say, it's about context. It's about a holistic reality, and you cannot reduce that to a two-dimensional plan. Some planners are still stuck to that piece of paper, drawing lines. But I think that these discussions show that we are dealing with a much more complex reality, and that we can't deal with it in a overly simplistic way of drawing two-dimensional plans. So thanks for the great stories. As Juanee said, I would tell you a couple of words about our upcoming Congress. I think this will be the last session of Cyber Agora because now we have to the last one for the time being, because we have to focus completely now on the upcoming World Planning Congress that will go entirely virtual this year. It's our 56th Congress, but the first entirely virtual one, not surprisingly, and it will be spread over a period from 8 November to 4 February. So you're all invited to register, sign up on the Special Congress website, which you can also find through our corporate website, the ISOCARP website. So I would say there will be many more activities happening under that umbrella. But I really hope that the outcome of the 3 first Cyber Agoras will be taken forward now in the Cyber Agora, in the town hall, and that we are looking for 30, 30 brave people participating in the Cyber Agora events that are willing to engage in a discussion that might take you into uncharted territory. We will use new technology, and we will see how far we can get in let's say, innovating virtual collaboration in very diverse ways. So I'm not going to reveal any much more, but I think Kate is the person to address to express your interest in being, a pioneer in virtual advanced collaboration. So I think with this, I can more or less close this session. Again, thanking you all for participation now, in previous Cyber Agoras, and keep the good work going in your own territories, contexts, whatever you want to call it, and see you again soon or later. Thank you so much. Over to you again, or not. I don't see now for the moment our curator, but if not, I think we can close it here. And there is Juanee. And also great thanks to Anna from the Secretariat, the silent power behind all this, not to be forgotten, of course. So thank you all for your participation, and hope to see you soon again in cyberspace.
Thank you, Frank. Again, thank you to everybody. Until next time. Thank you, Caren. Thank you, Marianne. Keep well, everybody.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.